Rogers TV Durham would like to acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation of the Mississauga Nation. May we respectfully honor the knowledge and understanding of the Indigenous stewards of these ancestral lands and ensure that the voices of the First Peoples are represented in our collections, programs, and services.
The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of At the Heart of Business. I'm your host, Jeannie Dhun. At the Heart of Business is a conversation with women in business discussing their challenges and successes. Our first guest today is Jeannie, also known as the Osteo Jeannie. Hi, Jeannie.
Good morning, Judith.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm super stoked to be here.
Are you? That's awesome. Well, I'm super stoked to share you and your business with the community. So tell us about your business.
So Osteo Jeannie is it's a space that I created because I wanted to have a space where people can come and just be comfortable and get a bunch of alternative treatments that they may not necessarily be able to find elsewhere very easily. So we have 5 manual osteopaths, we have massage, we have acupuncture, we have spinal energetics, we have Akashic records reading, Reiki. We have just such a wide variety of things that we offer that you just can't find elsewhere. So I just wanted to create that space so people can walk in and be like, yes, I want this and this and this and this and this. And it's right there for them.
Oh, so it's like a one-stop wellness shop.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's the right words, Judith.
That's amazing. So do you yourself provide all of those services?
I don't. So I do a lot of different things. So I am a doctor of osteopathy. I'm a spinal energetics practitioner. I also do Reiki. I also do Botox for pain. So if you have, migraines, headaches, jaw pain, those are the sorts of things I do. And I do B12. So I do that from my nursing background. So I kind of take everything and I meld them into one. And I'm like, here you go. So,
oh, okay. So before you got into this business, you were a nurse?
Yes, I was a nurse for about 15 years and it was nothing like I thought it would be. I was thinking more like Florence Nightingale, and it definitely was not that. I thought that I would be spending more one-on-one time with people, but I found a lot of it for me was giving medications and running on my feet all day long. I remember there were sometimes I would come home from my shift after 12, 16, 18 hours, depending on the day. And I would literally crawl up the stairs because I was so exhausted. And I was like, man, this is not what I imagined my life to be like when I was like, yeah, I'm going to help people. So I decided I actually had an injury and a friend was like, why don't you go see an osteopath? And I'm like, oh, what? So I looked it up that night online, and when I read it, I was like, this is what I want to do. And I literally signed up for school that night. And that's how I transitioned from nursing to osteopathy.
Okay, so for people that aren't really familiar with it, what exactly is an osteopath, and how does that compare to something like a chiropractor?
So osteopathy, we look at the entire body from head to toe. So if you come in and you say, Jeannie, my jaw really hurts, and I say, okay, Judith, let me take a look at your jaw, but let me also take a look at what's going on in your cranial system, in your head. Let me take a look at your neck, your shoulders, even down to your back, your hip, your legs, all of that, all of those distortions in the body can lead to an issue in the jaw. So I can work on your jaw 1,000 times and you're going to feel great, but it's going to keep coming back, because if I'm not addressing the other issues, then everything is just going to keep coming back. So we look at the body as a whole, and we work with things that other people don't generally work with. So we work with the nervous system through cranial sacral. We can manipulate the internal organs. So there's just a wider umbrella that we cover that with osteopathy, and it's gentle. So I don't want to compare it to any other modality because every modality has its place and it's difficult to say, well, this is what we do versus them. But I know, for example, chiros do high velocity movements. Osteos don't do high velocity movements here in Canada. So everything is soft, it's gentle. And we kind of take our time with the body, and we value the body as an entirety, if that makes sense.
Well, that's good to know. So how would someone know that they need you though?
Oh, everybody needs, no, I'm just kidding.
I agree to some degree, of course.
You know what, if there's an issue that you're having, we can help with it. Whether it's from digestion to headaches to back pain, knee pain, elbow pain, if you're a golfer, so anybody from all walks of life, if you have something that's going on, we can help. And that's anywhere from your baby that's one day year old to your grandma that might be 99 years old, and everything in between. So we cover a wide range of things. And if you're not sure if we can help, we probably can. So, give us a call and we can always talk it out with you and say, yeah, that's something we could do. Or sometimes we say, let's do something in tandem. So maybe go see the massage therapist first and come see me. And there's always that collaboration of therapies as well that could be helpful. So it's just, it's all encompassing.
Love it. So you went into this business because you were kind of searching for answers for yourself. So what is your deep-rooted why as to, getting into this business and staying in that field and then growing a whole wellness hub?
My why. So when I worked in another place and I had an 8-month long waiting list, and I was like, it would stress me out. I would go home and go, oh my gosh, I am not really helping people. If I see you today and I'm like, okay, Judith, I need to see you again in 3 days or a week. But, I can't see you for 8 months. I felt like I was doing a disservice to people. I never really knew if I wanted to open my own business, but there was a moral issue that came up at the last place that I worked, and there was something that didn't sit right with me. So I took that as an opportunity to say, okay, let's do this. And my vision was to have multiple osteopaths available. I should say multiple manual osteopaths available, because there's a difference. In Canada, you can only call yourself an osteopath if you're a medical doctor that studied osteopathy. So that's why we refer to ourselves as manual osteopaths. Side note. But I wanted to have a place where you can go in, you can call us, and a lot of times, same day, I can say, yes, I have somebody that can see you. And that way, I didn't feel like I was doing a disservice. I didn't feel like I was just seeing people just because I have people on my list, because that's not what I'm here for. That's not what makes my heart happy. I want to really help people. And along the way, I was like, well, osteopathy is difficult to find and to book in with. So why not add in other services that are difficult to find and book in with? So that's how we grew into this wellness space of unique offerings and services. And I love it. I love it. I love when people walk through the door and they're like, I walk through the door and immediately I just get this sense of calm. It's one of the most fulfilling things for me to hear that, because I know my energy is loud, my energy is bubbly, and the fact that somebody can still walk through that door and feel that sense of calm, that means, for me, that's a success.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what else is it that makes you successful?
I think just passion. Like, I love it. I love what I do. I love touching people in a therapeutic way. I love that feeling of touch. I love creating. I love that every day is different. And I think that love and that passion exudes out, and people see it and they feel it. And, the right people are attracted to me because they see how much I love what I do. So I think a big part of my success is really loving it, really caring about the people, and just creating and continually studying. If you know me, I am always studying and creating. I created something called osteoaesthetics. It was a gap in osteopathy. We don't have a lot of options for the aesthetic side of things. So I created something where I combined a bunch of different manual therapies from different places. And I created this program where if you're not into injectables, that's okay. There's an option for you as well. So that oomph to learn and that oomph to give my people more and more and more. I think people they love that. And I love that people love that because it makes me happy.
Oh, that's amazing. Have you had any challenges since starting your business?
I mean, there's always the, oh my goodness, am I going to be successful? I'm not as successful as I want to be. I think I pushed myself in that way. There's never a time where I've been like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. But there's times where I'm like, oh my God, is this going to happen? Is this going to come through? So I guess my challenge was having a space that could accommodate different peoples of different needs and making that space all encompassing and all inclusive. So I think that would be my biggest challenge. And my biggest challenge. I think back and I'm like, okay, well, I want more. I want the business to grow more. I want more people to know about osteopathy more than anything else. I want people to know there are options out there. And I'm like, no, not enough people know. I keep thinking not enough people know. There's not enough people that know. But when I sit back and I think about it, I'm like, man, Jeannie, you went from a space half the size and within 2 years, you moved to a space that's twice the size so that you can accommodate that. Like, who does that?
Yeah.
So, it's an accomplishment. So I think the roadblocks that I think are roadblocks aren't necessarily roadblocks. I think it's just me behind myself going, you could do more. You could do more.
Yeah, of course. We're always trying to push ourselves and, get to reach or go beyond our limits, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where the growth happens, when you step outside of those limits, outside of that comfort zone.
Absolutely. And sometimes I don't think we're realizing we're stepping outside of our comfort zone. It's like, you can do more, do it. And it's just, I don't know, that drives me though.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So it sounds like you've had some really good wins. What other wins have you had?
The team that I have is a huge win. We all just meld so wonderfully together. And I know we hear often, oh yeah, we collaborate with our team, but we really do. There's sometimes I'm in a room and I'm like, you know what? I think acupuncture would be good for you. Do you mind if I bring Ali in for her to take a look, and then you can ask whatever questions you have? And the patient would be like, yeah, okay, do it. So I bring Ali in and I'm like, okay, this is what's going on with this person. I think acupuncture would help because of this. What do you think? So Ali would go in, feel things around, talk to the patient and say, okay, this is the plan that we think could work for you. What do you think about it? So it's not just us making this plan. We're making this plan with this person that's right there with us. So I love that I have the ability to interact like that with a team, because man, sometimes it takes a village, and having a village to be able to do this sort of work is so important. So for me, that's a huge win. I was so blessed to have the right people reach out to me and the right people come to me when I needed it. So that's a huge win.
That's amazing. Last question. What is your message of love, light, and inspiration?
Oh my goodness, don't hold back. My message of love, light, and inspiration is to you, man. It may be scary, but you're the only thing standing in your way. You're the one that judges yourself the hardest. You're the one that are hardest on yourself. Just do it. The rewards far outweigh the fear. And when you move through that fear, that darkness, after darkness, there is light, and the light is so bright. So it's worth moving through the darkness. It's worth moving through the scariness. It makes you a better person and a stronger person, and you just feel like you can take anything on. So that is my message, that if I can give anybody any piece of advice, just do it.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. It was so wonderful to speak with you.
Thank you so much, Judith, for having me. I'm so appreciative and so thankful to be able to do this with you.
Yes. Stay tuned. We'll be speaking with your money coach, Angie Ross, next.
program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Understanding human nature can be a superpower.
The first 48 hours are critical.
What kind of idiot are you?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to At the Heart of Business. I'm your host, Judith Tate. At the Heart of Business is a conversation with women in business discussing their challenges and successes. Our next guest is your money coach, Angie Ross. Welcome, Angie.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, we are excited to hear everything that you have to say and also to give us tips or teach us how we can be better with our money. So tell us about your business.
Okay, so my business is a money coach. I work with people on their short-term cash flow and I like to call it calming their cash flow. So getting their money in order in the short term so that they can see the benefits of that. And the other thing I want to say is that people often think of money and they're like, ooh, money, I don't want to talk about it. And I like to find more joy for people's money. So the idea is that you're going to get more out of your money and you're going to actually love it at the end of the process. So that's where I am.
I like that you say that you're going to actually love it, because there's just so much negativity and taboo and everything when it comes to money, just from the time that we're children, constantly hearing messages like there's not enough, or like we don't have enough, or can't afford, or it's amazing how you speak about money creates your finances. So that's what I've experienced.
I 100% agree with that. Mindset is a huge piece. And then I also look at the numbers. So a lot of times people are like, oh, I'll just work on the mindset. I think in conjunction, when you look at both the mindset and the numbers, it's magical. The things that we can do with our money and get more joy out of it, it really, really transforms people's life.
That's great. Now, do you work with a lot of business owners or just people trying to sort out their personal finances? Like, who do you work with?
Yeah, so I actually have a colleague that I work with as well. And so the two of us do both. Right now, my focus is on the personal finance side, but I actually work with a lot of business owners in the personal finance side, because what we find is that if your business finances or your personal finances are a mess, they're both a mess. And so it tends to translate into both. And so we can't really look at one without the other. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work that well. But yes, and I also work with people that aren't business owners either. But the personal finance piece is amazing, because just to give you an example, I was able to overhaul my own personal finances in order to get out of a full-time job as a teacher and transition into self-employment and actually have more money in the bank than I had before, which is crazy.
That's amazing. Okay, so let's talk about that. What's your why? Why did you get into this?
Okay, so I actually taught personal finance at the high school level in Pickering, Ontario for 18 years. And now I'm aging myself. So we're gonna, try not to talk about that too much. But essentially, I was teaching them all the basics that they needed to know about money. And what would happen is at parent-teacher interviews, parents would stroll in and they'd be like, great, I want to talk about my kid, but I really want to talk about my money. How can you help me? And can I participate in this? And can I take your course? And I'm like, unfortunately, no, this is just for the high school kids. And so I started to recognize the need out there in the real world, that people that were actually functioning with their money on a daily basis and struggling. And so I recognized that, you know what, I could really be impactful in helping them with their cash flow right now, addressing that, and they would see the payout right away. So that's when I decided, you know what, I got to get into this. I got to get into dealing with adults and really helping them with their cash flow.
Oh, that's amazing. So how is it that you've been able to positively impact your life or, your clients' lives? Like, what does that feel like? What does that look like? Because there must be a lot of satisfaction in that.
Yeah. And so I was satisfied as a teacher in like, I love the kids and everything, but it's a different type of satisfaction because what I'm seeing is I'm able to reduce money stress, which is like the number one stressor for most people. And so once we can kind of reduce the stress of what's happening, whether it be debt, whether it be living paycheck to paycheck, even when you're making like pretty good money, there's lots of people out there that are living that kind of paycheck to paycheck feeling. Or if at my house this week, it's been terrible. My air conditioner went down, right? And so things like that would just throw people off into a tailspin. And so what I'm seeing with my clients is we have a plan in place. And when that happens, there's no stress. Sure, it's annoying that I had to pay $4,000 for an air conditioner, but I had the money saved, right? And so it kind of really reduces that stress and that feeling that that negative feeling that they're feeling about their money, and instead we focus on the opportunities we can create with their cash flow.
Oh, that's great. I love it. Now, do you find that working with business owners or even with people's personal finances, that people are afraid to look at the numbers and they just kind of ignore them and go about their business, just hoping it'll get better?
Yeah, totally. We call it the ostrich effect. So it's like, I just stick my head in the sand, I just continue on, it'll all be fine. And you know what? Maybe it will. But you're not maximizing your money. And so that's the thing. If you want to have that kind of growth mindset with your money and do more with it, you're going to have to look at the numbers. And the other thing I like to talk about is the fact that I've been there, right? And so when we did an assessment on our money, we found $2,000 a month that we were spending on stuff we didn't care about. And so the reality is we took that $2,000 and it got me out of my full-time teaching job into this career. And then also once I started making money here, we were able to take that money and buy an Airbnb in Mont Tremblant. And we're going there next week. So again, maximizing our cash flow and getting more of our money. And it's like, it feels like we have more money, even though the income isn't as high as it was previously. So it's just like interesting when you look at those numbers and stop ostriching, it's like, what can I actually do with my money? And it's like it's amazing what you can actually do with your money.
But why are people so afraid to look at the money or look at the numbers?
I think shame plays a role, guilt. People think it's going to be really hard to make a change in that area. And again, a lot of people think it's going to be budgeting, tracking every dollar. And I'm a bit different. I hate budgeting. And so we have a process where it's a lot simpler. You're really just looking at your unconscious spending and just one number instead of having to track, your gas expense and all those types of things. Yeah. And so I think people think it's going to be tedious, and a lot of people just they don't like numbers. So I'm not good at math. I'm like, okay, we're going to simplify this for you, and this is what you're going to do, and you're going to see the result, and you're going to be happy that you did it.
Excellent. I love it. And what are some, like you mentioned a couple of benefits of working with a money coach. What are some other benefits?
Yeah, I mean, the reduced money stress is probably the biggest one. So I find that people just feel like a weight is lifted off of their shoulders. They know exactly how much they can spend, guilt-free. They get to go and spend it. They get to enjoy their money. And then when they're within that parameter, they're able to still get the most out of the rest of their money, like maybe buying an Airbnb or saving for vacation fund or emergency savings. So it's very clear, and it reduces that stress on them. I also find that with couples, it's really interesting. A lot of couples, including my husband and myself, he's not here, thank goodness. He'd be like, don't talk about me. But including my husband, it's like it got us on the same page. So we were not necessarily on the same page. We thought we were, but it was really clear setting of financial goals that got us on the same page. So it reduced a little bit of stress in the relationship as well. So that's a really nice thing to know as well. And then I think the other thing is I'm as a money coach, I'm unbiased. So I don't work for a bank. I don't work for a financial institution. And so a lot of times people will ask me questions because they really honestly don't know. And they're getting an unbiased answer. So it's having like a little money mentor in your pocket that you can throw questions to, and I will give you an unbiased answer.
Amazing. And have you faced any challenges with this business?
I think the challenge was getting started. So as a high school teacher, I always hear this, you have a pension, you get the summers off, it's a nice secure job. And so it was really hard to step away from that. And I also, quite honestly, I did really enjoy the students. And so it was a tough decision, but I just kept having this feeling probably for 10 years that I needed to do something different. And so what ended up happening is the challenge for me was stepping away from that financial security. And what we did was we looked at our cash flow. We actually took a realistic look at the numbers instead of just saying, hey, this isn't doable. I'm like, let's actually do this. Let's do this process. And then I realized, okay, I've been using that as an excuse. This is totally doable financially. And then once we actually looked at that plan and made a plan, I was able to leave. And again, as I said before, we have more money saved than we did when I was a teacher.
That's amazing. And I love that you said that you were making excuses, because it's those excuses that always keep us stuck and we can't move forward. So you actually did something about that. And it is hard to take a look and to sit down and figure out, okay, this is how we're going to come up with a plan. This is how we're going to do it. A lot of people don't want to do that because it's just easier to stay the course and do nothing.
I agree. Taking action is hard, right? But once you I say, once you open that can of worms, once I opened that can of worms, I was like, I can't go back now. Yeah. You take that step forward and you're like, oh, okay, now I'm in it. The other thing that is, I've had a lot of people come to me because they want to make a career transition or some kind of change. They're not happy in their career, but the money is keeping them there. And so I'm like, well, the first step is let's assess your money. If the money is the problem and it's keeping you stuck, let's actually look at it. Is it really money, or are you just using that as an excuse?
Good stuff. And what's your biggest win?
Oh, my biggest win. This lady was amazing. She came to me through Instagram. And she didn't know me, but she needed help. And so we managed to clear off in 6 months, $15,000 worth of debt. She also was able to get out of a relationship she was not happy in. She was staying because of finances. She also downsized her house, which was part of the plan. She wanted to do that, but we helped her with that and started saving for her kids' education. And all of these things in 6 months. And it's just that accountability piece and getting that realistic plan in place. And now she's on with me as a maintenance program. And we're working through, she's making a couple changes at work as well. But right now, all of these things have kind of gotten in line with her, and she just feels like she's on the right path.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That much change in 6 months? That's pretty big.
It's one of these, once you get the ball rolling, it's like eye-opening, and it's like, okay, I can't go back now that I've kind of spoken it out into the world that I want these things to happen. Now they're starting to happen.
And what makes you different from other money coaches?
So I think the first thing is the no budgeting, because a lot of people will be like, if you just create a budget and stick to it. Well, the reality is about 90 to 95% of people can't stick to a budget. So I'm like, okay, great. You take that 5% of people and you work with them, and I'll work with the other 90 to 95%. Because it's hard. It's restrictive. It feels like a diet. Nobody likes that, right? And so I really don't believe in the budgeting and in the strict budgeting. It's not a thing. The other thing is you don't actually need to be qualified to be a money coach. So I went and got my certified cash flow specialist designation because I wanted to have something in my back pocket. I also did my certified financial planning courses a long time ago. And so I have a lot of extra education in addition to my university degree in finance. So that's the thing. And I also have experience. I'm not telling people go get an investment property and I don't have one. I actually have a few, right? So I've been through a lot of these processes myself, which just gives me the leg up, I believe.
Excellent. So last question, in 20 seconds, what's your message of love, light, and inspiration?
Okay, money should be a tool that you use to create more joy in your life. We're going to maximize your money to maximize your life.
That's amazing. Love it. Thank you, Angie, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Judith.
And thanks to our viewers for watching. We'll see you next time on another episode of At the Heart of Business.
Call the Rogers